Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast featuring me, Bailey Smith, a guy that's getting really worried right now because the top of my head keeps getting cut off frame because my chair won't go any lower. I keep trying to mess around with the camera. This is the best I can do. Can I do any better? No, I can't because I'm worried I'll knock over my desktop. But anyway, and stuff. Once again, another fantastic episode of the podcast, episode 15 of the show. I've got another fantastic guest. But as per usual, there we go. I actually meant to look at the camera this time. I didn't do that for the first part. I do that a lot. But anyway, so I've got another great guest on. But before we get started, song recommendation time. I always like to do a song recommendation for every episode I do. Recommend a song out to the listeners and stuff, to listeners of my episodes. And today, and stuff, I've got another brilliant song recommendation. It's going to be a song called Halo by Boston Manor, a fantastic and stuff indie rock, alternative rock song and stuff. It's a song that I don't usually sort of listen to. It's a bit more kind of not slower, but it's not got as much of that, I guess, intensity, that sort of, a bit of fun, bit of quirkiness and stuff. It's a bit more of a mellow, kind of a bit more of a kind of reflective kind of track, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's not ballady, but it's kind of like that ballad rock kind of stuff. Fantastic sort of voice from the lead vocalist and stuff like that. And sort of a song that you really feel the emotion of. And when it builds up towards the end, absolutely fantastic. So you guys should definitely go check that song out. But anyway, let's get into the main portion of the show. On the podcast, I have got comedian, presenter, actor, and he supports Liverpool, which I probably shouldn't get him on for that. But anyway, welcome to the show, Dave Bibby. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Straight in with the football rivalry as well. That's when people decide whether they're going to like me or not. Right, which club does he support? Let's get that done.
The ironic thing is as well is that you have a Luton flag right in the background, so it just looks like I've just lied.
Yeah, that's true. This guy's a Liverpool fan. It's a Luton flag. He can't be. But I've also got a signed picture of Robbie Fowler here. I've got a John Barnes collector's thing, so to prove I'm Liverpool. I grew up just outside Luton and love Luton Town. So when they made it to Wembley, I still try and get to their games. But that's a flag from the playoff final when Luton finally made it into the Premier League. So that's sort of just been up here for the last couple of months since they. I think Jurgen Klopp's next to it. I don't know if you can just about see a mask of Jurgen Klopp as well. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, all your precious items there, your Jurgen Klopp mask. We always need that on
Exactly.
hand sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. All the good stuff.
But I've done my own song recommendation. I like to do and stuff like that with every episode with every guest. Also, guest song recommendation. So if you were to recommend a song out to the listeners, what would you like to recommend?
I'm afraid I'm not particularly current. I have like the same sort of music on the spin all the time. But the one song that I had when I was getting ready for my recent show was a cover of King of the Swingers by Fall Out Boy, which doesn't sound good, but it's like it's just really like upbeat, and it was a song that I listened to when my son was a baby and we used to dance around the kitchen. So when I was getting ready for the show to put it on, it's just really, really good. Like to make a kind of Disney song feel like a really good rock song was quite impressive. So try that one.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'd love and have a little bit of Fall Out Boy, so that's a great recommendation. I don't like emo rock music. I'm not wearing a Paramore shirt. I haven't worn Panic at the Disco shirts. I don't like any of that emo stuff. But anyway, it's up now. A great song recommendation. You guys should definitely go check it out. But speaking of your Edinburgh Fringe show and stuff like that, why don't we jump straight into that? You just did it recently and stuff. Your show, Baby Dinosaur and stuff. How did that show come about, and how did it go down at the Fringe?
So yeah, it's there's like a trend at the Fringe at the moment for like one man shows that sort of do the back catalogue of famous movies or TV shows. So there was like a one man Breaking Bad. There was like one man Star Wars, a one man Friends, all this kind of stuff. And I sort of thought about I could do like a one man Jurassic Park. And that was back in 2019 when I did my last show, Crazy Cat Laddie. And then I had a baby and the pandemic like cancelled the next Fringe. And then I was too busy with a baby to do the next. And so suddenly it's 4 years past. And so what I did is a show called Baby Dinosaur, which was supposed to be a one-man show, but I had a baby and didn't have time. So I made the show with the audience live every night. So the audience did all the sound effects depending on what the screen behind them said. So it'd say, make the sound of wind, or stampede, stamp your feet, So, and then of course obscure weird little things, while other people got up on stage and played the part, mixed in with stand up about being a parent and that kind of stuff. So it's a very sort of surreal, good, fun, dumb, improv almost show that was slightly different every night. It was amazing. Just got loads of good reviews. I won a little award. I did a few Fringe festivals. I did Leicester Comedy Festival and then Brighton Fringe. I did Buxton Fringe and Bed Fringe, and I got some nice reviews all along the way while I was developing it. And Buxton Fringe, I got 2 nominations in their awards, and then I won an award up in Edinburgh this year, which is really cool because it really is just me doing stuff on my own. Like a lot of comedians up there, they've got big management, big PR. They're paying people thousands of pounds to put their name in the Telegraph or whatever else. And I'm just doing a dumb comedy show. So the fact it was so busy and so well received was just amazing. It was really good fun. So I'm sort of thinking about what's next, really.
Well, at the end of the day, if you're winning awards for it, you know what I mean? It can't be rubbish. You
Yeah.
don't need big management sometimes, yourself
Yeah.
can prove that. Sort of on that note and stuff like that, I found it interesting you bringing up about like the topic of big management and stuff and people sort of at the fringe and stuff like that in terms of like, you know what I mean, like what they can do in terms of advertising and all that. And I don't know if you saw and stuff, and I don't know sort of if how many of my listeners and stuff have seen about this, but there was recently an article that was put out and stuff about a sort of female performance stuff called Georgie Greer, where she had a show where she only had one person in the audience. And a lot of
Yeah.
people were saying about their experiences at the Fringe and Edinburgh or other ones and stuff about only having like barely anybody watch it and stuff. Like, what is your sort of opinion on, sort of people like talking about these attendances at Fringe shows and
Yeah.
just getting recognized for your work in general?
So I was talking to Georgie in the run up to Edinburgh, and she seemed really nice. She's like a friend of a friend, and we were sort of sharing ideas and things. And so we sort of follow each other on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And I didn't see that tweet that said, only one person turned up, and I think it was a friend of hers, until it had blown up and like all these like huge stars had said shared their like, oh, I did the Fringe in 2002 and like I cancelled so many shows because people didn't turn up, or 2 people turned up, or just my parents turned up, or whatever it was. Um, and then I did go and see Georgie's show as well. And I think sometimes people forget it's a Fringe festival. It's supposed to be for new voices, new people, upcoming talent who you've never heard of. And there's only sort of a limited number of audience members. So you've got to try and do your thing to get them in. And actually, I think some of the bigger names, they need to take responsibility and if they're going to do the Fringe, they need to give back to new voices, because there is a case of some of the big stars are actually now detracting from new talent, and they're going up there when they could go to Edinburgh and do a show any month of the year and people would come because they're a star, and they could go to any town and any city and they'd get an audience. And sometimes what happens is there is a bit of a pull. They do also bring in people because they're big names and they get press and stuff, but there's a pool of like these massive venues that are pulling people away from people like Georgie or whoever else who is trying to work really hard in the show, and then only one person turns up or nobody turns up. And I did the free Fringe, which is more like, you get sort of slightly higher numbers on the free Fringe, because basically what happens is people don't buy a ticket. They turn up, and if it's good, they stay. And if it's really good, they pay. So it's a brilliant model because it really keeps you on your toes. But it also means more people come and see you because they're like, well, if it's no good, it hasn't cost us anything. So you then just have to win them over. So I saw, yeah, Georgie's the post, and I spoke to her about it, and it completely turned her Fringe around. I couldn't get a ticket for ages after that, and I eventually, on the sort of penultimate day, managed to go and get a ticket and see her, and she did a really great show, and it was nice to see. And but yeah, it's good to get that press, because when you're a kid and people are doing exams, and there's always a friend of yours who's like, man, I haven't revised at all, or I handed in that bit of coursework, and you're never really sure if they're telling the truth. And quite a lot of the time they're not. There's these people that have sort of said, oh man, I've done nothing. And the Fringe is a bit like that. People are like, oh, I've got nothing. What am I going to do? No. And then you find out that they're loaded, and they've paid thousands of pounds already to get a certain amount of reviews. So it's interesting, like the certain people who are like making noise about it. I just think it's a brilliant, beautiful festival, but you have to accept that numbers are up and down. Yeah,
Oh
that's the
yeah,
thing.
100%.
Yeah, it's yeah, but that's honestly, I go and see stuff when I'm up there all the time, and some of the best shows, whether that's theatre or comedy or magic or circus, are those like weird little venues that you've never heard of, off the beaten track. Oh, you can go and see those big names any other time, and sometimes you have to sit through some bad stuff, but then you find these little golden nuggets, and it's so fun. It's so beautiful, and then you get to say that you saw them before they were whatever they become. So yeah, keep going to the fringe, people, and support the smaller acts is the main thing.
I would love to go myself and stuff one day, or even to any of the other fringe ones. I don't know if there's any sort of near my way and stuff. I live in Essex, so I don't know if there's any fairly big fringe festivals apart from maybe London. But I would love to go just one year to go Edinburgh Fringe, maybe
Yeah,
next year and stuff. I don't know if you'll
yeah,
be
do
doing a
it.
show next year. Maybe I could
Yeah,
turn up and stuff. Like I'll give you a 5-star review from the Joining Me Today podcast, and that's worth more than the
do it.
Telegraph and anything.
That's what we want. Yeah, I'll be putting out there going, oh, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, I don't know if there's an Essex one. There probably is. They're popping up everywhere now, which is great because it means that Edinburgh is not the be all and end all if people can't afford to go. But what I noticed this year as well, because accommodations got ridiculous for comedians staying up there for the whole month and for punters coming up for a few nights. And there's quite a lot of all dayers this year. So people were like booking a train or a flight really early one day, and then they'd be like getting on the beers on the train or on a flight or something, and then booking a train or a flight home like late that night or even like early the following morning. So just going up there, doing a whole day of shows and having fun or partying or whatever it is they want to do, and then staying up really, really late and almost to the next morning, and then getting on the train home or a flight home and then sleeping when they get back. So not bothering with a Premier Inn or a hostel or whatever it is that people stay in, I don't know how they do it. There's a lot of tired, especially Saturday nights. You'd see people that have been like trying to like keep up the drinking or whatever since they got to the airport Weatherspoons at 6 a.m. or something like that.
Just looking at their bank account and like, I'm in the red now, like just minus £1,000.
Yeah, easily done, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's actually quite funny. It reminds me of going a little bit off topic, whatever and stuff, but it actually reminds me of Eurovision this year when it came to Liverpool and people were saying about accommodation. And like I was reading articles that were like, because tickets and accommodation went so quick, because obviously it's not just fans, in England, it's from Sweden, Spain, France, all coming in. They said that some people are capitalizing on it on Airbnb, and they were saying, yeah, you can, stay in my flat, but it'll be 10 grand a night. I
Yeah.
wish I was even joking, like literally
Yeah.
offering it. And I don't know if people took it, but they were saying it just went through the roof. And that's
Yeah.
what it is with
Yeah.
these sorts of events. It's the expenses and the costs that people don't like think
Yeah.
about and stuff like that when it comes to these events.
Yeah, I think as well there are some cities like New York and that who've got sick of like people on Airbnb. They're like buying flats and then like renting rooms out for like crazy money on Airbnb, and it means that local people can't afford to buy a home in their own town, their own city. And I think Edinburgh is trying to figure out, and no one really knows what the answer is, trying to figure out a way of keeping a cap on it because it's just getting ridiculous. And yeah, Eurovision was the same, wasn't it? Like a one-off, it'll probably never be in Liverpool again. And they put on a great show, so people wanted to be there, and they're willing to pay that money because they wanted to be there. And it's just taking advantage of them. There's got to be some caps or something, man. It's sad to see almost, but there you go. And maybe on another podcast, people are talking about making money and being like, here's what you do. You buy a flat where next Eurovision is going to be held. And you buy a flat in Edinburgh where the Fringe is going to be. You buy a flat just outside the pyramids in Egypt. And we're going, oh, please stop doing that. Please stop.
And always be a guy as well whose arm looks like a dumbbell as well. There always be these like really stocky guys who could never be a footballer, so they give a trader instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Have you heard of Airbnb NFTs? Just them sort of people.
Yeah. There's definitely a podcast out there doing it, isn't there?
Oh
Yeah.
God, you got to love the economy sometimes. But anyway, sort of going a little bit sort of different and stuff off sort of comedy, whatever, and stuff. And in a way, and stuff. I know that obviously you're a massive fan of football. We've obviously spoke a little bit about football already and stuff. But what's your history with football like growing up?
I've always been a football fan. I think my dad got me into football when I was probably about 7 or something like that. And first of all, it was playing football. And obviously, I was a very active kid, and like a lot of comedians, my attention span is poor. But I could play football all day, so I played. If it was school holidays, would just play all day, and we'd go to a different park, we'd challenge someone to a match. Jump us down, let's play. At school, I would play in the playground as soon as we got to school, and then the bell would go, and we'd go and do lessons, and it would be break, and we'd play football, and we'd do more lessons, and it would be lunch break, and we'd play football again, and we'd play after school. I mean, literally, I just played football, but you'd think I'd be good at it, but so it was just constantly playing football, and then my love of Liverpool was the thing. So my dad, all my family from up north, but I grew up near Luton, and so he sort of took me to Anfield, and I was already sort of football mad, like watching a little bit on TV and just playing constantly. But then going to Anfield as a young kid and seeing the Cop, which this is giving my age away, it was still standing when I first went to the Cop, and I wasn't standing in it. I was sat next to it and just looking at it, and it was just this wall of people, thousands of people, and obviously they didn't have a seat. So to get a good spot, they had to get in early. So they'd get there hours and hours early. And there was nothing to do but to sort of get that party atmosphere going by singing. And they would be there when the teams came out for warm up. And by the time kickoff came around at 3:00, they'd been there for hours, and the atmosphere was just incredible. And I don't think we'll ever see that ever again in my lifetime, because football's changed, some for better and some for worse. And that was enough for me. And that's just like, that means that football either ruins my weekend or makes me happy every weekend, and often midweek, every few days. So yeah, I'm a big football fan. I still play. I play six-a-side and stuff, and I'm getting worse and worse, but I still love it. And I watch a lot of football. And yeah, growing up near Luton, I had a season ticket for Luton, but they were sort of further down the divisions, so they never really played Liverpool. So I sort of kept those two clubs separate, really, my local team and then Liverpool, who I'd get up and see whenever I could. But yeah, still love it, still watching. I've been lucky enough to work in football and interview footballers, and do some football coaching on camera and all sorts of stuff. I love it, and hopefully I'll do more of it. But yeah, I'm still that little kid who just obsessed with football. It just never gets old to me. But yeah, I just don't get up to Anfield as much as I used to, unfortunately. I haven't been up this year. One, it's so hard to get tickets, but all my mates that used to go and watch with, just sort of stopped going. So I need an excuse to get up there, really. So I haven't been. I used to go at least once or twice every season, but since the pandemic, it's went off, and then I had kids, and now I just don't get the chance. So I'm looking for an opportunity to nick a ticket somewhere, and we'll see.
Yeah. You got to talk to Liverpool. You got to say, "Have me as a presenter and stuff." That's what you got to get in. You got to use your contacts, get in that way.
Yeah, this is the problem being a Southerner. I have actually had a few meetings about different things with different clubs, including Liverpool. But at the end of the day, if you want a Liverpool fan to be, I don't know, people want the Scouse accent. They want their Liverpool fan to sound like a Liverpool fan. I sort of get that, and I understand that. So I'm quite often. I do stuff as well being an England fan, and that's often where people ask me for my opinions or anything like that. Or if I'm an interviewer or something, like it'll be on a World Cup show or something like that, But they never. I'm not a proper Scouser, so I just sort of keep quiet.
You're faking. I can't believe this. You've lied to all of us now. What you doing?
I know, exactly. I think it's fair. Get the real Scousers in. I don't know. I've got a mate of mine, a guy I used to work with, and he's lucky enough to have a season ticket, but he lives in London. And I'm just like, how do you do it? Like, the cost is just mind blowing to get a train from London to Liverpool, and then like national, they just call the trains off at like silly times, and then you've got to get accommodation. Like, it's just to watch football. You think, I just watch it on TV. I wish I could go more, but there we are.
Yeah, that's it's so true and stuff like that. So many fans feel that and stuff. I know we were saying about trying to get tickets and all that. I know through my like little brother and my dad and stuff, they've tried and stuff a lot and stuff like that to get tickets for Arsenal and stuff like that, because they're Arsenal fans, and it's like so many hoops you've got to jump through. I'm just lucky I don't have to deal with that with my team. And speaking of that,
your team then?
Yeah, I was going to say, so this is my favorite part. I always love doing when I get football people on. What do you think my football team is? And I'll say this, it's not a top six team.
West Ham.
Everybody gets West Ham every time. No, I haven't punched anyone, so no, I don't support West Ham.
Is it local to you, or have you gone further afield?
The irony is, no. I actually moved further away from it.
Oh, oh.
And I'll
Leeds.
give you Leeds. No, not Leeds. I do appreciate Leeds, but not Leeds. I'll give you a clue because I kind of threw you in the deep end and stuff. They're a team, they play in blue and they have been in the Premier League, but that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say.
Who plays in blue other than Chelsea? Reading are like blue and white stripes. Everton are blue. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think of clubs as well down by your neck of the woods, but those ones haven't made it to the Premier League. I don't know. I give up.
Well, my team, it's funny enough, you actually did mention it. It is Reading is my team.
Oh, it is Reading. Okay, yeah. So they did. Yeah, I should have said it more confidently. Reading, yeah.
It's quite funny because I grew up in East London, so actually West Ham would have made sense, but and stuff. I wanted to. It was just a thing where it was just when I was really young, like you're playing games, you're playing FIFA, and I hadn't decided on a team yet. I saw Reading, I was like, that sounds like reading. That's funny.
Yeah.
And then it kind of stuck from there. And on the London news, they would report on like Reading and stuff like that, or you'd at least
Yeah.
hear about it and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I'll pick Reading, and then I moved to Essex, and now it takes me 3 hours to get to a game.
Yeah. Oh man. And some days it ain't worth it, is it? That's part of being a
Oh,
football fan.
God, we're doing so bad ever since we got relegated. Like we're losing to like Exeter. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like no one cares about Exeter. People move out of Exeter. Unless you're going to
Yeah.
the uni, you don't move into Exeter. Why are we losing to teams like that?
Yeah. There's
Oh,
so
it's
many clubs
crazy.
that have had a taste of like Premier League football and they've gone to all those big clubs and they've done well and they've beaten some big teams. And it's so hard to then accept that that period is over. And I know with Luton Town, like they had to go all the way to the conference really to properly rebuild. Because it's like, wow, we were a top division team back in the 80s, and then they got relegated the season before the Premier League was formed in '92. So that we'll be back, and then they were never back. It never happened until 30 odd years later, and it's finally happened for them. But sometimes it's a blessing. You almost need things to get really bad before they get better again, because people sort of forget like the good times and just say, okay, well, now what can we do right now? Let's rebuild.
Mm. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping for the future with Reading. Hopefully, we might fix our problems, but knowing our luck, we'll probably end up in the Conference South soon. So
You just need one visionary manager. That's all you need. That's all you
Mm.
need. Someone comes in, they change it. They get a few good loan deals. They got a few mates somewhere that sell them a decent player, and then you start moving your way back up the divisions. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully so. But sort of staying on the topic of football and stuff like that, and speaking of people supporting smaller teams and stuff, I know and stuff like that, you've done a lot of work with your mate Jim Daly and stuff, a
Yeah.
former sort of guest on the podcast and stuff. How did you first come to meet Jim, and sort of what work have you guys done together?
So Jim's wife is an actress, and we actually did a show together years ago. We did an open air Shakespeare play called A Midsummer Night's Dream, and she was like, "You'd get on really well with my boyfriend, who's now a husband." And so he came to see the show, and he sort of was doing his YouTube stuff, and I was doing live comedy, and so we sort of partnered up because I guess what he knows about online stuff, I don't know, and I did a lot more live stuff, and so that was sort of we used to sort of share information about that, and yeah, we've done a few different things, podcasts and things, and then we were at Yahoo Sport for a while, and we were the resident comedians there, and we had such a good time. We had to make a VT every week, some kind of sketch or feature or something every week. And we had to write fresh gags for the show every week, and we'd interview footballers. And it was great. That never got old for us. Jim's like me, he's not getting any younger, but he still has that enthusiasm. And so he says, you've got to go and interview Razor Ruddock today or someone. And he's like, brilliant. Oh, God. Absolutely. Someone who hasn't been playing for 20 years. So absolutely. Like, I'm buzzing to go and interview these ex footballers. And we'd just be like loving it when they'd stick around in the canteen and have like lunch after the show, and we'd be like, so tell us a bit more, and they'd tell you stuff off the record, and it was brilliant. I just absolutely love it. Like these little nuggets that for anyone who isn't a football fan, they'd be like, why is that important? But for us, it was amazing. In fact, do you remember the footballer Stephen Warnock? He's still a broadcaster now. Match of the day 2, and does 5 Live. He's a really nice guy and everything. Well, he played for Liverpool for a long time, and then he played for Aston Villa, and he was a really good like left back in a time when England didn't have many left backs. So he went to the 2006 World Cup. But I was chatting to him after the show, and he was talking about the fact that he never played at that World Cup. He just never got a single minute. And I was like, that must have been awful. He's like, no, because Ashley Cole was the best left back in the world. And he was like, I'm an England fan. I'm there if Ashley Cole gets injured, but otherwise, that's it. And I was like, well, amazing. And if you remember, like Frank, or maybe it was the 2010 World Cup, sorry, and Lampard had a shot that went off the crossbar against Germany and over the line.
I still get nightmares about that goal.
Yeah. And I was chatting to Stephen Warnock about it, and he was like, yeah. He was like, I was the one that told Fabio Capello, because there's no VAR. And Capello had said to him, run down the tunnel, go and look on the TV, watch the replay. You tell me what's happened. And obviously there's a slight delay, and they're still showing it. And he comes back and he goes, it crossed the line. It was miles over the line. So Capello's like raging at the fourth official, and he's kicking off for the rest of the game. I was like, it's so weird to tell someone who's not a football fan that excited me so much that Stephen Warnock was telling me this information, this stuff that would just be of no interest to anyone else. But I was like, oh my God, what happened? And he was telling me about it, and I was just loving it. I was like, that's your part of football history. Like, you never played a single minute, but you were there telling the lads that the ball crossed the line. Like, it definitely did cross the line. It was, just brilliant. And so Jim's the same as me. Like, he still has that enthusiasm for football and all these tiny little bits of information that just seem like an exclusive to us that we love.
And you know what's quite funny as well? You bring up the 2010 World Cup and that goal with the Lampard thing, whatever. And the saddest part is that because I'm only 21, that means that was the first World Cup I ever watched.
Yeah.
So my first World Cup was us having a disallowed goal, which basically helped knock us out. So terrible times, man. Like, that era of England though was just so like the golden generation. That should have been better, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Any team knew that if they defended well, they'd get a chance eventually, and could take them to penalties, and there's someone would miss a penalty. It was just ridiculous. But I'm glad England have been good in the last few tournaments, because Jim and I were doing a show, and everyone was like, oh, international football. Oh, who cares? I love my club. International football brag is so not. And I was like, because I'm that bit older, I was like, no, like my first tournament was Euro 96 when we got all the way to the semi-final. Badil and Skinner doing the 3 Lions. It was like a magical summer. I would have been 11 years old, right? That was my first big, because we didn't qualify in 94. So, man, it was so good. And I was like, there's now like grown men and women who have just got that attitude of, international football. I'm like, no, it can be amazing. It was just, we lost to Iceland, and we had the Roy Hodgson years and the Steve McLaren years, and Sam Allardyce comes in, drinks a pint of wine, and years and years of averageness following. A golden generation did nothing, and years of average. It will come back, and we should have won one of the last 2 tournaments, to be honest. Which is a weird thing to say for an Englishman. Like, you'd think you'd be happy getting to a Euros final and a couple of World Cups, but I think people now are like, it was really nice for me to watch a younger generation, people are like your age, in fan parks, like with England, like retro England shirts on, and being so proud to watch England, because I was like, it skipped a generation. It was like me, and then 10, 15 years, nothing happened, and then your generation gets to be young and then watch a good England team. So hopefully we win something, and I'm glad that English football is back. Maybe one day
if it happens and stuff. If it happens, I want you and Jim to do a collab song. You're gonna do your own cover and some of 3 lines on a shirt.
Yeah, I'm sure me and Jim could cook something up with my musical comedy and his YouTube skills. We could do something. I don't know why we haven't, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm surprised you guys had never actually done. I know you guys. I saw that famous video of you doing the live version of the '92 football team song
Yeah.
at your show, where you remembered all the lyrics, didn't you? And stuff.
Yeah.
You remembered them very well.
Yeah, yeah. He was like, right, this is this year's song, and we put it in one show years ago that we did, and then it had to be in every show after that because people loved it so much. So we decided to start every Jim and Dave live show with the '92 English League clubs and just say you just have to shout when we get to your team. And it was so amazing watching the audience being like little pockets of like Millwall. Well, there's a Millwall fan in today. Or Derby. Oh, okay, and and then people like really cheer, and it gets like Macclesfield and saying, "Oh, right, okay." Great
There's the
fun.
door.
Yeah, exactly. Really? Okay, interesting. A life of pain.
But yeah, no, I love that one where Jim uploaded one of them and stuff like that, and it was just like, what was it? It was like Accrington Stanley was the first one, and then you'd already messed up the next team, and you just keep trying to fix it. And it just snowballed. It was like, but it made it funnier though, because we're
Yeah,
still talking about it now. So sometimes that's
exactly.
the genius of comedy.
That's live comedy, and that's why I went back to the Fringe this year and did live stuff because as much as I like doing stuff online, there's nothing better than a live audience where they know that those little moments, even if it's something that's gone wrong, is unique to them and that day and that audience and that vibe and that feeling in the room. That's what comedy is all about, really. The future is online stuff, but the heart of comedy is definitely live in front of an audience for sure.
So we spoke about football, we spoke about your comedy work and stuff like that, and we've even had a little talk about music and stuff. But I'd like to now get into and stuff your work in commercials and stuff like that. I know you've worked in different commercials. You're currently in a advertising campaign with Labara Mobile at the moment and stuff, and you've done work with Costa and stuff like that. Like sort of what's it like to be in all these commercials that are like on TV, on posters and all that? What's it like in that whole commercial world?
It's really good fun. Like the commercials are obviously funded by the client. So whether that's Costa Coffee or Labara Mobile or Betfair or Walker's Chris, I've done so many down the years, Levi's. There's a bit more budget. So actually, when you do these commercials, like they hire some of the best cameramen, the best directors, the best wardrobe team, and like it's amazing, like really big budget stuff. Sometimes you'll then go and do a movie or something, and you'll be like, oh wow, this camera's not even as good as the one we had on on that advert for some crisps. It's just like it's amazing. It's just really really good fun to do, and like basically everyone has a casting type in commercials, and like you have to just try and figure out what yours is, and it can be quite brutal sometimes. They want like different looks and things like that, and like for me, like there's a lot of models who work in commercials, and obviously that is not me. And that so I come in on the funny ones. So sometimes these like TV adverts are like um, sketch shows. So like each one is trying to be funnier than the next one, and so I end up doing all these really like weird, fun adverts, and it's really cool. And it usually just a day or two filming. I've filmed some overseas and stuff. It's great. And sometimes I've done ones for like Kazakhstan, Ireland, Israel, Hong Kong. And you sort of forget about it. I remember once someone messaged me and just said, my husband just sent me this picture from the canteen in China. And it was an advert I did for HSBC years ago.
Hmm.
And in the canteen of this like bank, they had on loop the advert that I was on. And he was like, I'm gone to the other side of the world. He was like, is that Dave Bibby? And all the overseas ones, you just sort of forget. You like forget you've done them. My brother once I did one for Quick Fit. Actually, it wasn't really an advert. It was like a how-to, like MOT test type thing. I was playing a Quick Fit fitter, and my brother walked into a Quick Fit. He had a puncture tire, and he was like, "Right, I need." And he looked up the screen, and same thing there. I was on there going, "The new MOT test changes are coming." And he was like, "That's my brother." And the bloke there working there was like, "What branch does he work at?" And he's like, "He doesn't work at a branch. He's an actor." Uh, so it's a brilliant, wonderful world where you get to play these different roles and do these weird things. It's great, really great fun. I love it.
It'd be really
Um,
funny if he said, like, why didn't he just try and fix my tire then? It's like, he's been a quick fit this whole time.
yeah, he could have sorted that out for me. Yeah, people take things at face value. It hasn't crossed this bloke's mind, even though he works at Quick Fit. He couldn't tell that a guy talking about MOTs doesn't really know what he's talking about and is just following a script.
Okay, sort of going back to speaking about Costa, whatever and stuff. One advert I've got to talk about the advert with Ronan Keating and stuff. You got to tell me about all that. What was it like and stuff working with him on that advert?
It was great. So the director who did that advert has cast me in like quite a few different ones, and he was like, "I've got this character who's basically an annoying idiot," and I thought of you, and I was like, "Oh, thanks, mate." Um, and it was literally just one day filming, not far from Reading, actually. Where was it? It was one day film somewhere out that way, and it was really great fun. I had to sort of play a part of a guy who was in a Costa, seeing Ronan Keating and being like, "You're Ronan Keating, aren't you?" And then make some bad jokes. And I said to, like, in between takes, I was chatting to Ronan, I was like, people must tell you who you are all the time, because like famous people just come up to go, "You're so and so," and he goes, "Yeah," and I get people saying, "You're Gary Barlow, you're Simon Pegg," and stuff he was saying. So I think people just mistake him for other people of about the same age and blonde hair and stuff. But he was really, really nice, and he was so good. So often, like, you get on these shoots, and like the celebrity is like someone who's been on Love Island or something, and they're like, they can't act, they can't remember their lines. You're there all day, and you're like, "Do we get overtime if he doesn't get it right?" But Ronan was like ultimate professional. He was like they were working him so hard, and he was doing it all like one or two takes, great, on to the next one. It was brilliant. So that was a really fun one to do, and they didn't show it as many places, which is even better. Then I don't know, people going, "Yeah, Costa, I saw you in Costa." Sometimes some adverts, they go on for a couple of weeks and disappear. Others just run and run for years, and like you just get more known for that advert than like what you normally do. People come up to me and go, "I know you, don't I?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." I've probably just been trying to sell you crisps or something in between Coronation Street.
I saw you as pigs in blankets before. I saw you in the Walkers advert. You can tell I did my research.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that one was fun. The pigs in blankets one was fun. That was good. That was a Christmas special advert. You always know that they're not going to last too long. As soon as Christmas comes, it's off air. So yeah, being in commercials is like, I don't really mention it so much because I'll talk about another job that I'm doing, like theatre or comedy, or I'm writing a new show, and people say, "What are you up to at the minute?" And then they'll just be like, "I saw you on something," and I go, "Oh yeah, I sort of forgot about that." But the weird thing for me is like, obviously, like I do auditions or self tapes, which you then upload for the casting director a lot myself. So for every advert I do, I've like done another 20 or 30 auditions. So I'll be sat watching TV myself. Sometimes I see myself. Quite often I see my friends. And quite often I see an advert and I know the lines and I'm like, "What is this?" There was a Tesco one recently, and it's because I did an audition and I did a recall for the part, and then obviously they went another way with a different guy, and then I just totally forgotten about it. And then like 6 months later, it finally aired, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this one. Oh yeah, he disappears, and the wife comes back, and yeah." And it's just so weird when like you're like saying the words in your head before they've quite got to the end of the sentence. It's like a weird world to be in, but yeah.
It'd be really funny if you're sitting next to people and stuff like that. It's like, "Oh, a new advert, I don't know, revealing something new," and you're saying the lines, and you're like, "Dave, how do you know this?"
Yeah, it's predicted the future. But I used to get when I used to do the Betfair ones, I did like 13 adverts for Betfair, an ongoing campaign, and of course, Betfair was targeted at sports fans, so whatever the sport was, but quite commonly football. And I'd be sat in the pub watching a football match, and it'd get to half time, and it'd be like me trying to sell you this Betfair app, and I'd just sit there like, "Oh god." People are going, "Is that no?" Like the barman sort of sat there going, like, "The guy sat next to the screen is also on the screen. What's going on here?" Yeah, it's a weird world. But yeah, I've got a couple out there at the moment. I've got some in other countries. I've got the Labara one in the UK, so don't know how much longer that one's got to run.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny and stuff, because like when I sort of say to people whatever and stuff like that, like, "Oh," because I like talk to people about guests I have had on whatever, and I was when I was sort of saying about the podcast I'm going to do with you, like I'm doing with you, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you might have seen him on an advert. He's been on this advert on the telly and stuff," and it's like people go, "Oh, I think I've seen that one," and stuff like that. It's quite funny, sort of how that all works out, like.
Yeah, and people will see it and then see it again and see it again and see it again because it keeps popping up as well. So it's not like a TV show. People will watch it and go, I saw you on that episode. And then they move on. Maybe they never see it. But with adverts, it keeps getting shown to them, especially with social media. Like you keep getting it over and over again. Like in between Instagram stories, you get that. Yeah, there I am dressed up as a sausage being like, Walker's Crisps.
Living the dream, living the dream.
Yeah, exactly. Show business, so glamorous.
But anyway and stuff, this has been a fantastic episode, a fantastic interview and stuff like that with yourself and stuff. I've got two sort of final questions and stuff. First question I want to ask yourself, future plans and stuff like that. We spoke about your past work. Have you got anything in the future we might be seeing you on? Maybe a commercial, maybe a comedy project? Anything for the future?
Yeah, there's a few things knocking about, but I just finished Edinburgh a few weeks ago. So my show, Baby Dinosaur, which had gone really well, I'm going to try and do some London dates of that. I'm in talks with a couple of other venues in the Midlands and up north and other festivals where I can take that. In the meantime, I've got 2 or 3 new projects that I'm very tentatively starting. It's like the new school year, September. You do Edinburgh in August and you're like, Edinburgh again next August. I need a new idea. So I've got a new idea, which is sort of a follow-on from Baby Dinosaur. So if you want to come and see my shows, if anyone listening thinks, okay, let's check them out, go to davebibby.com and I'll keep it updated with upcoming gigs. And anyone who wants to see Baby Dinosaur, the award-winning show, and award-losing, actually, I didn't win them all, will hopefully be coming to London soon. So hopefully I'm going to have confirmed news on that. And then, yeah, I'm just auditioning, self-taping, seeing what happens. I'll probably pop up on your screens doing something or other over the next few years.
I really want to now see advertising where they say this is the famous award-losing show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, multiple award loser.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, I'll have a lot of them probably in the future. God, look at this hair. This is award-losing hair. God, I don't even know what's going on here.
I like it. No, you're going to be on a shampoo advert.
Just going to be like Head and Shoulders and stuff like, find a new Head and Shoulders and you can look like a 6 out of 10. But anyway.
That's a harsh review. Definitely. 6.5.
I told the Telegraph, don't give me a 6 out of 10. I paid them £1,000 and they still gave me a 6 out of 10.
Nightmare.
But anyway, and stuff, now to sort of and stuff, getting to the final question. I always like to ask this with every guest that I have. If you was to give an important piece of advice and stuff, let's say it's to me and stuff, what's the most important piece of advice you could give someone?
It sounds really corny, but it's all just be true to yourself. There's so much. If you're making podcasts, making comedy, writing jokes, writing theatre plays, if you're whatever it is you do in your life, whatever career you have, the temptation is to follow in the footsteps of the people that inspired you and do what they did. But you have to realize that they did what specifically was unique to them. Whatever it is you want to do, be inspired, try lots of different things, but figure out what is individual about you. And that's what people will love. And if you can put that across, you're away. There's something special in everybody. If you can find your own unique spin, you're away.
Yeah, and those are some brilliant words and stuff. I've actually had that a couple of times and stuff on the show about sort of being true to yourself and stuff like that. But It doesn't matter how many times it's repeated. It really is important, especially now in the world of Instagram and being fake and putting out. You need to be true to yourself and put your true self out there. And this is why I love podcasting, because I feel like this is a format where we can have a real discussion, real conversation, have a bit of a laugh, but talk about some real stuff. And, it's been another fantastic episode and stuff. And if you want to go check out more episodes, guys, and stuff like that, definitely do. And if you want to go check out this guy, any socials, anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, you can get me on all cross social media. I'm Dave Bibby on Twitter, Dave.Bibby on Instagram. My TikTok is fallow, but I'm going to be doing some more stuff on there at some point. So yeah, you can find me, and davebibby.com is where you can find a load of back catalogue of old sketches and funny songs and stuff like that. So yeah, check me out, and hopefully I'll meet some of you guys at some point.
Yeah, and stuff, and go check out and stuff like that. He's Baby Dinosaur Show. If it ends up being near you and stuff, if you live in London, near London, I might be going to it and stuff like. If it's near London, I might be making the trip down and stuff. I expect VIP tickets and stuff. I'll expect a red carpet for when I come in.
Definitely. I'll roll out the red carpet. I'll be waiting for you. I'll have the award ready.
You go watch the famous award-losing show, as we all know. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you guys next time. Peace out.